If you've got a nice warm wood burner heating up a room in your house, you might notice that the heat it generates doesn't always find its way to other parts of the house. With a heat transfer system, you can move any excess heat you've got into different rooms and make them nice and toasty too. By using a heat transfer system, you could save on heating costs simply by using heat that would otherwise go to waste. Plus, you can install most of it yourself, easy as. We'll be installing a Weiss 1 to 3 room heat transfer system. It'll sit in your ceiling cavity, effectively and quietly moving heat to 3 other rooms in your home. You can also get a 1 to 1 room, a 1 to 2 room and a 1 to 4 room kit, and they're all installed pretty much the same way. In this pack there's a digital thermostatic controller, a multi-speed inline motor which has a fan in it, an inlet vent, adjustable outlet diffusers, a 3-way junction and 5 3-metre lengths of insulated ducting that'll join it all up together. Also we've got some cable ties and tape to tie it all together. Now, we can do the bulk of the work ourselves and install the vents and all the ducting, but we will need to get a registered electrician to wire it up and install the controller. The first thing you'll need to do to get started is to draw a plan of your place and decide what rooms you want to heat up. Obviously I'm up in my roof space and I'm just about ready to crack into it. Now I've laid down a couple of rough sawn planks. These are nice and cheap to buy. So the golden rule is don't step off your planks so you know that you're nice and secure. Now in your situation you might want to buy some packing sheet ply. They're pretty inexpensive. Cut them into strips and slide them in through your access hole. Now I've got myself a little work light so I can see what I'm doing. You may also want to take up a dust mask and some gloves because in a roof space can get pretty dusty. Also note, if you've got fiberglass insulation, it's a good idea to wear eye protection as well as overalls. To draw up your plan, locate your flue position. The inlet needs to be 1 to 2 metres from the flue and ideally offset from the fireplace door to avoid sucking in smoke. Then measure 1.5 to 3 metres from the inlet to determine where you need to hang your fan motor. Once hung, your fan motor needs to have 150mm clearance from the roof insulation. Next, attach a short piece of ducting from the fan motor to the junction. From here, mark up the vent positions for the 3 rooms you want to heat. Make sure to avoid the kitchen and bathroom as moving heat to these rooms will push damp air and cooking smells through the house. All 3 vents need to be identical distance from the junction. 3 metres is the maximum length included with each kit, but you should try keeping your lengths as short as possible. Keep in mind the shorter you can make your overall system, the more efficient it will be. Once you've checked your measurements, drill a pilot hole where you want your vents to go. It's the right time to double check that your vents will be clear of obstacles like timber, wires, insulation and pipes. And drilling pilot holes will make locating the position easier once you're back downstairs. Next thing I have to do is hang my fan motor. I've already laid out my plan so I know exactly where my pipes are going to go and I know where my motor's going to go, which is nice and central in this particular situation. Now on my fan motor I've got access for cable ties or a strop to go through, so it's going to hang from in like that position. Now on the top of my fan motor we do have an arrow, so that is the direction that the air is going to travel. So it's really important. I know I'm going to hang that way. The arrow is pointing this way, so I've got our air going in this direction. Now to do this in my pack, I have some cable ties I could connect together, but because I've got quite a high ceiling here, what I've got is a strop. Okay, so I'm just going to pull that up so our fan motor is about 150 to 200mm off the top of our rafters. So the next step is laying out our ducting. Don't forget to make your system as short as possible, which will make it as efficient as possible. Rightio, I've laid out all my ducting. Now, next thing I have to do is start connecting up all our ducting to our junction and to our fan motor. Just make sure that you've got the motor facing the right direction. Check your arrow. So we've got 2 bits of ducting within the one. We've got a sleeve of insulation that goes between the 2. So what we're going to do is just pull that insulation back in the outer silver foil and we're going to cable tie the first piece of ducting to the motor. And just clip that excess off. And then we're going to pull over the outer shield and tape that. Gone around a couple of times. And just cut that off. Now the next step is attaching from our fan motor up to our junction. So within our pack we have 5 lengths of our ducting. On the end of this I'm just going to chop that off because we've got some excess anyway. If available, use this excess to join the fan to the junction. So with a nice sharp utility knife, we're just going to cut straight through the insulation, through the ducting, and then the only thing we'll have to do is just cut a little bit of wire attach the offcut from the fan motor to the junction inlet. Then repeat the process for the other junction connections. Okay, so once again, we've got to just check that we've got nothing underneath our insulation that our ducting is going to impede on. So that's all looking pretty good. Now the ducting works best when it's nice and straight. In my particular situation, I've left all my ducting exactly 3 metres long to our outlet vents. Once the ducting is laid out, you can move downstairs. Now it's time to cut our holes out for our vents using our pilot hole as a guide. Now there's a couple of different ways we can go about doing this. We could use the old hand method using a jigsaw, or we could use a plasterboard cutter. The great thing about one of these is I can set this blade here to whatever size diameter hole. In this particular case, I've set this to 155 millimeters for the diameter of our vent. Now, we've got a shroud here that catches all the dust, so we don't have to worry about putting drop cloths all over our furniture. Before you cut your holes, ensure you're clear of wires and pipes. And if you have an older house with a textured ceiling, make sure you have some of the texture tested to ensure that it's asbestos-free. Okay, my hole's all drilled. Just reach through, grab my ducting. I pull that down a little ways. And we're gonna, exactly what we did upstairs, we're gonna pull out the inner circle first, and we're gonna connect our plastic collar onto that. So once again, we put our cable tie around this point, and then on the outer sleeve, we're gonna put our black ducting tape on that. So now you might just want to push the insulation back a tiny bit. You don't want that insulation underneath your tape. You want effectively that hole that will drill through the ceiling. It only gives us about 5-7 mil of coverage, so we don't have a huge amount of work with. So make sure that you're only taping that silver ducting. Pull it around nice and tight. It's looking pretty good. Okay, so we just tuck that all up there nicely. Great. So the next step is just putting in our 4 screws to secure that to our ceiling. Put our inlet cover on. Then using your pilot holes you drilled earlier, drill 3 150mm holes for the outlets. Feed the ducting through the hole in the ceiling, attaching it to the inside collar of the adjustable outlet diffusers. Again, cable tie the first layer and tape up the second. Then feed the ducting back into the ceiling until it's nice and flush. Then screw into place. Now this is our nice little outlet vent here. We're just going to push that in there nice and tight. That just holds to the ceiling. Now, a wee little tip for you. This is adjustable, this part here. So in all your rooms, you want to have this set to about halfway in and out. So I'm just going to set that to approximately half, and I'm going to make sure I do the same in the other couple of rooms as well. Okay, everything's looking fantastic downstairs. A couple of last things to tidy up here. Just make sure that all your insulation is cut nice and neat around your ducting. And finally, it's time to get the Sparky around to wire it all up and install the controller. The controller allows you to set the temperature at which the heat transfer system will turn on, so you can set and forget. And in the case of the 3 and 4 room systems, you can select the speed of your fan and, of course, on-off controls. Now that you know how to install a heat transfer system, get yourself a kit and make good use of the excess heat to make your place warmer. Don't forget to subscribe to the Mitre 10 YouTube channel for more handy content, or click here to watch more now.